The Philippines and China recently held high-level talks on South China Sea issues and disputed territorial waters. I sat down with Philippines Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo, who talked about avoiding confrontation and their priorities at the UN. I'm Frank Uciardo, and you're watching TRT World One-on-One. Philippines Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, thank you for joining us here on TRT World.
Well, thank you for inviting me. A great pleasure.
I want to start out by talking about your country's bid for a non-rotating seat on the UN Security Council. Tell us about that campaign, please.
The Philippines is vying for a non-permanent seat on the Security Council for the term 2027 to 28. And we have, as is the case always, been carrying out a campaign to win enough votes to be elected, which is always the case for every country that vies for a non-permanent seat. So our campaign has been a kind of whole-of-government approach. We've approached our governments from highest level, from the even presidential level to my level foreign minister, and also through other officials in our government meeting with their counterparts. So it's been a campaign where we have sought to impress upon other countries what the Philippines will do if elected to the Security Council, our priorities, and mainly our priorities would be to try and give a greater voice to countries, let's say middle power countries and countries, developing countries, especially countries from the South, to try and voice our views and concerns.
I imagine once you get on the Security Council that the rising sea levels and climate change is going to be a big priority for you.
Yes, climate change itself, the adverse effects of climate change, not only rising sea levels, but even natural disasters, which are clearly increasing in scope and intensity. And unfortunately, the Philippines is among one of the top countries affected by natural disasters, and they have been recently exacerbated definitely by climate change. So this includes not only, as you mentioned, rising sea levels, but even typhoons and other types of natural disasters which have been increasing in the years ahead. So these in the recent years.
Now, I understand that your undersecretary had met with the Chinese vice foreign minister on ways to de-escalate tensions in the South China Sea and, of course, the West Philippine Sea. Tell us about the clashes between the two countries over water rights, the Spratly Islands, and what are you doing to kind of lower the temperature in that area?
The situation in the South China Sea, or the West Philippine Sea as we call it, has unfortunately been rising, especially in the last couple of years. This, of course, due to the as you mentioned, the disputes, and unfortunately, a number of actions occurred last year where the Philippines was a victim of water cannoning, harassment of our fishing vessels, harassment of our Coast Guard vessels, undertaking normal, for example, resupply missions. What the issue really in the South China Sea is that what the Philippines is merely trying to do is to assert its sovereign rights in accordance with for example, the UN Convention, the Law of the Sea, which allows for an exclusive economic zone for all countries. And what the Philippines is trying to do is really take advantage and assert our rights in our own exclusive economic zone as set forth in the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Now, we have had regular meetings with China. We have an existing bilateral consultation mechanism on the South China Sea, which has actually been in existence for a number of years now. And we have met regularly with China, maybe once or twice a year. And these meetings have occurred in times of, let's say, higher tension, or also in times of lesser tension.
Do you think, though, those talks are helping to avoid a military miscalculation?
Well, I think that's the basic and fundamental aim of these talks, at least in terms of any untoward incidents. There's always the danger that of miscalculation or even accident, which could lead to serious incidents, which could even escalate into people or individuals, suffering injuries, which would then heighten further tensions and so forth. And this is exactly what we're trying to see in terms of these talks, to see whether we can avoid or at least find a way forward to lower the tensions and therefore prevent any kind of miscalculation.
Now, Doug, of course, you've just come from the United Nations, and I understand that there are more bilaterals going on this year than in previous years. And how important is it for you to conduct these bilaterals in the margins of the UN General Assembly?
Bilaterals are important whether I conduct them outside of the General Assembly or during the General Assembly. Of course, the big advantage of the General Assembly is that many of my counterparts are all here at the same time. And that gives a great opportunity for us to meet, or for me to meet with them. And many of these meetings are really part of the Philippine independent foreign policy, which is to try and meet and partner with countries. We're a friend to all countries. And when I meet my counterparts, they're really aimed at trying to see how we can increase our cooperation, whether bilaterally or regionally, or even on international issues such as climate change or other types of issues of international concern. So we discuss a broad range of issues. And that's really in line with our effort now to partner with as many countries as we can, given the current state of geopolitical conditions. Unfortunately, the world is beset now with conflicts and tensions, whether they be in Europe, the Middle East, and even in our own region, Asia Pacific or Indo-Pacific. And it's really part of our approach to try and see how we can cooperate more with like-minded countries, not only in terms of, for example, defense and security, but also through economic cooperation.
In terms of like-minded countries, has the Association of Southeast Asian Nations been beneficial geopolitically for your country?
We're speaking about ASEAN, I suppose, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We are a founding member, and in fact, ASEAN is almost 60 years old. In fact, it's the second longest surviving regional organization next to the EU. And it has, in many ways, brought about stronger cooperation among the countries in the region. There has not been any serious or major conflict in our area, and we're countries of similar, more or less, economic development, and we have similar concerns. And ASEAN has, in many ways, accomplished quite a lot, especially in the economic sphere, promoting greater integration and cooperation among the member countries, also in the social welfare area. On the political front, of course, we're facing different challenges, and we try and deal with these matters in such a way that ASEAN can at least speak with a common voice, or if not, and this is important, if not, at least provide a platform through our various institutions for countries, not just the ASEAN, but for countries in our region to meet and discuss issues which, regional issues or global issues which are of concern to us all.
I believe it was last April when you said that the Philippines won't allow the U.S. to stockpile weapons at joint military bases in that area?
First of all, we are a treaty ally of the United States, and we also have subsidiary arrangements, which is called the Visiting Forces Arrangement. This has been ongoing, and there have been what I think you might be referring to are certain sites which we have let's say, allowed to be used for joint operations of the Philippines and the
I
United States.
think it was specifically also Taiwan was your concern, right?
Well-
Using those weapons in Taiwan.
Well, you know, we have tried to assure other countries in the region, especially one country, that none of these weapons are aimed at any particular country, nor are these sites. In fact, the sites I've mentioned are really aimed at seeing how we could promote greater interoperability of U.S. and Philippine forces or defense forces in dealing with humanitarian issues, disasters, and seeing how we can work together. And if there are any weapons in place, they've been used for different exercises, and they're not meant to be in the Philippines permanently. But let me just say, they are not aimed at any particular country. They're not aimed at trying to heighten tensions, and they're merely aimed at trying to help our forces through, let's say, capacity training, and in many ways increasing our own defensive capabilities.
Back in June, they had Turkey and Philippine naval commanders that met in Manila, and this apparently was to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations. Tell us about that occasion.
Well, there's right. In Turkey had their ship visited the Philippines, and I think that's in many ways symbolic of the cooperation that we have had with Turkey. I think the Philippines was the first country in our region to actually recognize Turkey, and I think it's also part of our effort to increase our partnership with countries who are like-minded, who also see that it's important that we cooperate in order to help each other in the face of the unpredictable and dynamic changes now occurring in our region. And I think that's an important indication of not only symbolically, but also an indication that we're ready to cooperate more on, let's say, defense and security matters, as well as economic issues such as trade and investment, and greater contacts with each other.
Philippines Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo, thank you for joining us here on TRT World.
Thank you. A pleasure meeting you and speaking with you this afternoon. Thank you.